More to Marketing.
Welcome to More to Marketing, the podcast that explores marketing, product, and everything business. I'm your host today, Susan Walsh, and today we're going to be asking a very specific question. Why does it feel like a comedy sketch when you start a new gig as a new CMO in an existing company? I have a very special guest today, David, who's going to help unravel this and hopefully set it out so you don't feel like you're walking into a scene in a big joke. Our guest is David Scribner, a highly accomplished leader in marketing with a really remarkable career. David has held top executive roles. One of them that I know him well in is as the CEO of Virgin Mobile, where he spearheaded transformational initiatives in the telecommunication industry. His career journey has also included senior marketing roles at some very iconic companies like Nestle and Telstra, showcasing his expertise in driving customer-centric strategies and building high-performing teams. In addition to all of this, he's an executive leader, and David's contributed to this and earned many accolades. Some of them I'll just mention here is the CEO of the Year in Telecommunications by the CEO magazine, and also a finalist in the Marketing Team of the Year by MFA. He now has gone into a new venture, which I'm very excited about. He now co-leads FV Advisory, where he continues to empower organizations with his visionary insights and strategic acumen. I really want to hear more about you, David. Tell me about your journey, how you got here today, and then we'll jump into our topic. Welcome.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Susan. I should get you to do my introduction every time. That was so nice of you to do that.
I'm more than happy to.
It's great to be here. It's great to talk about marketing. It's a passion. I'm a big fan of marketing. I did at university, hired as a graduate back into Nestle, learnt the sort of real grounding in full P&L management at Nestle and how you need to apply that. Then took that learning into telecommunications with Telstra and ended up as the CEO of Virgin Mobile. Now very, very happy having just spent 3 years doing a similar thing with SAP as the global director of CX, actually doing it without any bias and just being completely independent. And that doing it is about helping marketers grow. And I think that's a real opportunity that is being missed at the moment and a bit of an opportunity around how can we do that. And I think it starts before day one. And as you said about the comedy sketch, I think sometimes when people turn up to any business, but particularly marketers could turn up to a business, that they think it might be a thank God you're here skit happening when they turn up. And love to have a chat to you today about what are the kind of things marketers need to watch out for and what can they do?
I love it. And I agree with you because sometimes when someone walks in and there's already an established person that's left, they walk into the mess, the jumbling, the juggling, even a circus. You're being kind saying it's a comedy act is more, to me, it's more like a circus half the time because of all these different people acting and throwing things up in the air and hoping they won't go and crash like an egg on the ground.
Yeah. I think one of the important things there is for the new marketer, marketing leader, particularly who we're talking to, so the great CMOs that we have in this country, is that when they start a new gig is the long lag between who was in that gig before. Now, on average, this is 6 months, but it can be longer than that. It can be, up to 12 or even 18 months, I've heard, before they've got a new CMO in. Now, what that can occur is that you've got a sort of situation where that gap can create new norms. People need to take over some of the leadership role that was being done by that marketing leader. There's structures and operations. I've seen some areas that have taken over areas that were traditionally marketing because they don't have a leader in for that period of time. And even if it is only 6 months, that'll happen. And it's 6 months is a long time in a business. So that's why it can be difficult that first few days, weeks, months to get sort of right, unless you've really got a great structure about trying to achieve that. And particularly the analytics around how your team structures are going to apply, how the planning cycle happens, how you can start to influence from day one. So I think, it's very, very important to get really ready for that day one.
Going back a step though, do you think any of the responsibility is on the exiting CMO to try and set up things for that time gap? Or do you think just during that time gap, people just maybe get hungry for getting involved and changing things before the new person starts?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of those things is unfortunately, in a few circumstances, the CMO didn't get the opportunity to do that because they left the firm at the firm's discretion rather than their own discretion. And that happens in the C-suite. So the lowest tenure in the C-suite continues to be marketers. And it is a situation that marketers are at about a third of a CFO. So a CMO's tenure is about a third of a CFO on average. And see, that is considerable because that CFO's got a basis in the company, got good structures, got good network, understands the process backwards. So a CMO really has to start running, and that's part of it. So I think the handover is not necessarily there. And in fact, in most cases, there's no handover. So the handover might have been given to the 2IC or somebody else in the organization, but it's not a direct handover. And I think that's some of the concerns around that. And even in the other case where a CMO has had an opportunity to get to another role that they're really excited about, they will probably leave on that role and it's up to the company to fulfill it. Now, it's just the lag happens with how long it takes to get a quality person in. By the time you go through the recruitment agencies and everything else. This is, if it isn't done internally, of course, that changes the whole scenario. But what I've found and our firms found is that internal rising the CMO is in the minority, not the majority of cases. So
I've experienced that myself as well, where I've usually seen they bring in new blood over internal recruitment, which has its pros and cons.
Yep.
And I think that adds to the whole circus and the comedy sketch impact of you don't know what you're walking into because what's happened, what's changed. You've been given a plan that may have been put in 6 months beforehand, 3 months beforehand, but that is not what you see when you walk in.
Yeah, look, one of the advice, and I think it's really important to get on top of the planning cycle, and I'll talk about that in a sec, but one of the key pieces of advice that we're giving CMOs that your learning starts the day you got the job or the day you probably applied for an interview. And if you're in a B2C, well, you can be a consumer straight away. So be one of the best customers you can be and do everything and engage and immerse yourself in the product or service offering. Like, get right into it. Buy online. Join the loyalty program. Do a return and see how that is digitally. Try and activate from an omni-channel point of view and see what that. And if you can do that all in that sort of lag period before you started, you have so much learning, and it's a great opportunity while you might be on gardening leave from the previous role, or you're probably checking out of that and checking into the new role. You're never going to have that opportunity again. And it's unusual and quite irregular for marketers to do a lot of purchasing of their own product. They have an expectation that what they set up is working, particularly from a digital perspective or any perspective, particularly from a digital perspective. We do a lot of digital maturity audit. And what we find out in that is there's some really easy, simple gaps that can happen. And usually when we present those, they're an easy fix, but the CMO and the team weren't aware. So there's the kind of things you can do. And then in a B2B environment, just seek out customers. If you can be a customer, even great, sign up, do everything you do in a B2C. But if you've got family and friends that might be in that environment, they might be a small business using a large business, then ask them how they're going. What's the kind of things, and get those sort of questions just so that you can come on day one armed with that customer knowledge, which will really give you an opportunity. And Susan, I might circle back to that planning discussion, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's perfect segue right now because this is all about planning and getting under the skin and knowing everything.
Yeah, so you're right. You just said before you've inherited a plan. You've inherited a plan from a CMO or marketing leader that might have left 6 months ago or longer. You've had some elements of that plan may have been initiated or implemented. Some of them may not be for a variety of reasons. There could be politics, there could be resourcing issues, whatever it may be. I think one of the things that we really encourage marketing leaders to do is to learn from others. So politics is a really good example. So when a government takes over they usually go, I think you've probably heard this, you go, oh, we never knew that the cost structure was as bad as we can and everything else. So they do a mini budget. And the mini budget happens in 6 months. You don't have to be a slave to the planning process necessarily. So that annual planning process, if you're brand new, why don't you do some learning and say, hey, we're going to restart. We're going to restart from a marketing perspective, put it in the timetable, get the right people across the organization who are going to help you with that implementation. And then that learning period and go like in 6 months, we're going to do the mini plan because we're going to restructure, we're going to redo it. Now, some of that stuff you might be like going, okay, well, I want to keep some of that. I want to really understand what's working, what's not working. So it's not about throwing everything out, but it's about, okay, let's reframe it. Because the expectation is really high on you as the new leader. We find 8 out of 10 CEOs are saying that the CMO must be in charge of growth. That is a significant figure. Yet only 23% are saying that they're delivering on it. So that gap is also incredibly significant and a bit scary. And the expectation when you first start is huge. You know, it's like, thank God you're here. You're going to change our growth trajectory just like that, just like a snap of the fingers. So the great thing about that expectation is don't waste it, use it, utilize it to organize and influence across the company.
And I think one of the takeouts I've got is marketing in charge of growth. But if the business they go into is siloed, growth is usually from sales team. So how does this new CMO, if it is in that kind of predicament where there is the silos, what do you recommend when their first steps when they're trying to really do something groundbreaking and shake that up and get that ownership back where it should be?
Yeah, I think there's two things there that are really, really important. Firstly, you really need to understand what is the brand of the marketing team. And I don't think people ask those tough and sometimes hard questions because they might not like the answer. So if it's run by the sales force, then are you just a branding and comms team that is supporting the sales force? This happens a lot in B2B functions. So, okay, you're in charge of growth, but you may not actually have the tools and empowerment to do it. We recommend that you operate as a composite marketer, that you take a full 360-degree view of the company. This doesn't mean that you have to have all the areas reporting into you. All you have to do is have the ability to influence it. And I think one of the key areas is customer focus. One of the ways you can work on it is understanding how do you build a CX culture in a company. Because by building that CX culture, you can start to get people along. You can start to look at all the different variables and activity and then assess, are you customer first? And we've seen that nearly every annual report you read, usually by the third paragraph, they say they're customer first or customer centric or customers king or we look after our
Some
customers.
phrase like that, yep.
I'd love to get currently an annual report that doesn't say it because it's quite, but when you think about it and you work with those companies, you go, I don't think you are. I don't think you are putting the customer first. I don't think the customer is king here. And I don't think you have customer centric strategies. So that marketer then can go, wow, I can get right into being around that key, critical, integral part of customer, and then use that to leverage building a CX, customer experience company. And I think by that, I mean, that's a great 6-month journey where you can build and get everybody together. And
that's the resource part too, isn't it?
Yeah. And that means like if sales is running growth, great, but this is an opportunity for them to run growth with service, with marketing. Also, one of the examples I always loved, it was Virgin Australia when I worked at Virgin. And when they talked about customer centricity, one of the things that they did was they did research on their competition's planes. I don't have to mention whose the competition name is. But one of the things that they found is that there was a lot of conversations between the air crew about how they were paid. So they were missing out on overtime. They were missing out on T&E expenses, travel and expenses. for hotel rooms, etc. And when they did that, so a lot of it wasn't happening through the accounts payable. So that conversations were getting overheard by customers, and then having a negative effect on that brand. So what Virgin said is, Virgin Australia, we all have a customer. Accounts payable, your customer, is to ensure that the employees never miss out and are positive about their payment experience. So that when you get paid, all your overtime's in there, all your expenses in there, there's no hassle, and they're happy. And then that happiness or the negativity of the reverse never appears in front of a customer. And I thought they put it in a customer lens to a group that is in the company that isn't necessarily customer facing. So I think that's brilliant, and it really showed, and they've maintained that customer leadership since they've launched.
And it comes down to listening and adapting, because there's a lot of times where you have to adapt to new processes, to new ways of doing things. And again, this is exactly what this poor CMO needs to do when they come into their comedy act. They're going to have some processes that'll need to be changed. I know you've gone through this, so tell me a bit more about this.
Look, I think, yeah, look, one of the things we talk about is getting in there quickly. Well, I just talked about before about changing the cycle of planning. Everyone's talking about the increased pace of change. We can touch on AI in this conversation, but I think that's just one example of everyone saying things are changing very fast. You know what's not changing very fast is planning cycles. We've had annual AOPs, annual operating planning cycles now for 100 years.
Agree.
If we are fair dinkum about it changing that fast, why aren't we doing 6-monthly planning cycles? Because we are reporting to the market 6-monthly. So just doing that is one thing on the planning cycle. I think what marketers really need to do is quickly understand how they're going to map out that first 6 months. Everyone talks about a 90-day plan. Absolutely, should do a 90-day plan. But it also should do a 180-day plan. And I think within that, you really need to look at, okay, get in there. Who are the stakeholders? What are they doing? What are their power structures within an organization, outside an organization? What are the current strategies? Analyze them, look over them. What are the performance metrics? Are people measuring it? Are people caring about measuring it? How far are we measuring it? Is it going to the board? Is it going to the C-suite? Is it aligned? All those kind of things.
Do they even know about it?
Exactly. Are really straightforward. Soft measures, are they impactful? What are they? Do they lead to hard measures? Have we made that association? A lot to do on that. I think one of the key areas, though, is build a strong team. So you can really get and assess the team's skills and really understand what's there and what's not there. And when I think of a marketing team, I don't think of just the people that are reporting up to you, but all your third parties, so your media and agencies and marketing service agencies that you may be using, and also other cross areas that you might be using that you should be in marketing or will have been in marketing. And then, so for instance, service, data governance, privacy, cybersecurity, where are they all positioned, and really assess the team skills across that with your peers where necessary, but really try to discuss that. And then how do you create a really collaborative but empowered sort of broader organization that's going to move the needle on growth? I think it's all got to come back to growth. And I think that's where the marketers need to step up. And as I mentioned, CEOs are saying that they've got to grow. The expectation for a new marketer is that they will. So let's use that expectation and really leverage it and get the right tools in place.
100% agree. And tools could be resources through to programming, through to new software, whatever it is, the product itself. And being able to pinpoint growth based on metrics that make sense and that everyone understands, because the company is completely involved and it's completely transparent. And to me, a lot of that comes back down to the culture that is built to have that ability for everyone to understand the common goal, the vision, and everyone to be part of it, to want to achieve that together and know that they can come up to anyone and everyone and give a suggestion, or I've heard this from a customer, this is how we can improve, just like the example you gave from Virgin.
Yeah. Where, you need an active listening process. It just needs to occur, right? And it needs to be, it actually needs to go all the way through the organization. So it needs to be formalized. It needs to have rigor to it. So you will get feedback. You'll get feedback from store level that will say that plan's not working. Okay, great. Or that product isn't hitting it with customers. What you need to do is then evaluate that against an active listening program. Or you might get a senior board member or C-suite member say, my wife doesn't like the ad. So, or my husband doesn't like the ad, or my partner doesn't like the ad. That's great. Okay, that's an important data point. But let's see if we can evaluate that and put some rigor around it and see what we've got on that. But I think you're right, Susan, that impact of having an active listening program that is formalized and with a bit of rigor is really important. And if it's detailed up through the organization, it gives everybody, including board members, what are we doing about it opportunity.
Exactly.
And then that's a great opportunity once again for you as a marketer to go, this is what we can do, this is what we're going to do, and this is what we can't do. So some of the things we implemented.
I think one of the most powerful things I've ever done is I've gone to a new area and I've said, okay, I want to get voice of customer. I actually want to hear it from them. So in my case, I was able to do double jacking and actually listen to customers coming through a call center. But then I also went to my call center reps, give me a list of everything you think that could be done to improve either your life or a customer's life. And I do that. I did it when I first joined them. I then repeated it so that they knew I was listening and they could see things changing and moving off this list as well. That made sense. And I felt that for that, they were being more open about things that they were hearing that might only be one person complaining, but it's only because one person decided to call and complain, but it's actually impacting so many people when you go underneath the surface. And that was very powerful to be able to impact the product and the marketing behind it to ensure that these customers were getting happier and happier along the way. And also the call center reps too, because that made their life better.
Yeah, and look, it is really important. I mean, you are dealing with a mass market, so you have to not let a couple wag the dog, but understand whether that is a burning issue that's going to get bigger, or whether it's a one-off or two-off, depending on what, or whether it could be an organizational flaw that's an easy fix. It's interesting. Once when I was at Virgin Mobile, I think one of the key things that we worked out, and we had these fantastic call centers in the Philippines, and they were fantastic. They were great, and they were part of our multi-channel offering. I haven't used omni-channel yet. Our multi-channel offering, because I think multi-channel is every channel is still a silo, and omni-channel is actually when you crack it. But what we realized is that they didn't really understand as well subtext and context of what was coming through. So that was better served at either a store level or the work we could do online. So there was an opportunity for us to understand the power of each channel and what role it had, and then where customers will be best served to do that. It took a bit of work, and it took a bit of data collection, and it took a lot of data governance about correcting it. But it was really important listening to that exercise, because we only did that through double jacking, which you referred to, which is when you listen in on a call, because we could see the help and the beautiful wanting to help and wanting to serve, but didn't understand some of that areas about how that applied. So it's really understanding all of your channels and how they are probably your biggest branding opportunity.
Definitely. Now, we've been talking about this poor new CMO coming in and bit of a circus act, a joking act, walking through the door. Everyone's just like attacking them and making them almost want to run out the door again. What are the key, we've talked about a few of the key watch outs, but if you could sum it down to the handful that you know are the key ones that you would always look at straight away, what would they be?
Look, I think there's probably five. Firstly, I think you need to evaluate your organizational maturity on, say, whether you're going from a seller-centric to customer growth. Where are you on that? And sort of give it a rating out of five, and then report out and report up the line. I think you can quickly evaluate with assistance the marketing team, and I'd recommend on getting some assistance in so that you can look at global best practice, etc., to do that. Thirdly, I think you really need to look at your support organisations, and I mean that in the context because there's a fear that a CMO will come in and the first thing they do is change the agency, but it's more about evaluating how it's all working. Do I have crossover or do I have gaps? So, it may be pressure around the agency, but it actually is the internal team that is causing some of the go-to-market issues. So I just really understand that. And fourth one is probably the most important, which is recasting marketing value. What you want to do is go, we are not just seller-centric or seller support. We're actually a fully equipped marketing team that is about growth. So if you can recast that value and start to run growth programs and foster cross-functional collaboration leading up to those growth programs, then you're more likely to recast that value. Once you recast that value, then you're more likely to hit what your growth goals are and be appreciated within the organization, and then start to implement and take over some of those planning sort of cycles, etc., that you need to do. And then like the fifth is works on the back of that, but empowering marketing with a strategic growth plan. So get that plan as quick as you can. I wouldn't wait till the annual operating plan. I'd put a stake in the ground and say, I'm in here now. I'm going to do an evaluation, and on this date, we're getting together to present the plan. Prior to that, here's the times when we're collaborating across the company to understand that. So give enough runway for people to attend, enough information to attend, and then make it adaptable to those shifts in culture and consumer behavior that you need to look at. So create the plan, but have the key goals around growth, but also make it adaptable is going to be really critical.
100%. And I think, again, by changing it, that shows it needs to be adaptable anyway.
Yeah.
Because for all anyone knows what happened in that 3-6 months gap, the business could have had some completely different shifts as well. So things need to move and be adaptable, including the CMO and any other area that they work with too.
It's not set and forget, right? I think a visionary strategy needs to be dynamic and adaptable. You don't want to make it too loose either. So you've got to get that. The goal shouldn't change. How we get there might a little bit, but we've still got to climb the mountain, and we're going to get there. But we might go path B when we go to path A because of competitive, environmental, social changes, or we've come up with something that we think is going to knock the ball out of the park and catapult us up 3 levels. So all those are really, really important. So I think, you've got to, it can't be too narrow and it can't be too broad. So a narrow focus, and I think this is a lot of the problems happening in Australian marketing at the moment, is the narrow focus. And it's relying a lot on third party to support and deliver. And a broad focus then deals with classic massive overlap, multiple handling, increased costs. So getting a great marketer will get that right. And I think they need a partner to help them go, okay, who's doing this really well globally? What am I doing? What are my areas? And I think that's when you start to get into structure, right?
Exactly. And the opportunities, who knows what they are unless you actually start scratching the surface and being curious.
Yeah. And getting your own structure right is really, really critical. I think I talked about the CFO before and their long tenure. CFOs usually come in and they have a real base case for what their structure should look like. You've got accounts receivable, you've got accounts payable.
Very structured.
It's pretty structured. There might be some changes in nuances depending on, M&A cycles and things like that, and listings and all that, but pretty structured. The marketing department tends not to be. and far from it. And also it can have grown organically, and people will throw assets at what the latest thing is. So we've
Yes.
all been there, right? So, oh, digital. We need a digital manager. I thought, and then we figured out that everything was digital. And then, or social media. We should get the young guy and be our social media manager because he's on Facebook a lot,
Oh, he's on
even though he's
TikTok.
not
He knows how
anymore
to
because
dance.
exactly like they know how to spell TikTok. Um, and now AI, get an AI person in. So all these people are going in organically rather than going, how do I apply AI in a growth format across my business?
Mm.
You know, efficiency and productivity for AI is great, but how do I do growth for that? So understanding the scope and your team dynamics is really critical. And I would take, if you're a new marketer, there's no reason why you can't take a zero-sum game to this and go, okay, what we're going to do, I'm going to start afresh here. Because if you don't, you inherit everything that has come with those roles. And you may even want to change the naming of the roles. Right? When I worked in a media company, one of the things that we changed was rather than group sales manager, it was group sales leader, because we talked a lot about leadership and just keeping that going and everything else. And it made a huge difference, but it also changed an opportunity for me to put what I thought and my direct reports thought needed to be in that job title. Like what else needed to be in there and what could go. What could we throw out of it? And a lot of what we threw out of it and gave it to an assistant area was the admin, because that wasn't what the leaders should be doing. But the managers, well, they could claim, right? So I know it's just normal culture, but really important for how you can start to change some of the core dynamics of your team can be around that. And a way to do it is to go, look, I'm just going to start afresh. This is what it's going to be. And look, that'll cause, Susan, that's going to cause disruption, right?
Oh, yeah.
You got to accept that. But is it less disruption than the previous 6 months where there was no leader? Probably not. Is it less 6 months than, or is it less disruption than what's happened in the prior year where the growth targets haven't been met and a few people have been let go? Probably not. So, yeah, it looks like a level of uncertainty for people day one. But if you go, okay, by day 30 or day 60 or day 90, I will have it nailed. I will interview everybody. I will have this done. I will understand the scope for what we need to achieve. You're going to make a big difference and you're going to have a much stronger aligned team.
And it's also bringing them on the journey.
Yeah.
By bringing them on the journey, they feel empowered and they're part of it. So then, and it might be that you find out during the process that there's a whole pile of people that are actually not happy. And I was speaking to someone very recently. It's about, I might not be the right person to do this job, this piece of the job, one particular task. But if I call it out to the group, someone else loves doing that. It might be the most boringest thing in the world, but they just love process. They just love that piece. And this enables that ability to be able to juggle things around where it makes sense and also bring in the new.
And this, you're 100% right there. And this is where it comes into that listening that you spoke about. This is listening to the team. If you can, depending on the size of the team, sit down, coffee, interview everyone, and really get their point of view. And you know what? Do your direct reports last. Don't do them first. And that's a little trick because you'll find everything else that's happening. And then when you go to the direct reports, you actually come empowered with the information.
Yep.
Which you can test. Doesn't mean it's true, doesn't mean it's not true, but you can really test it. Because I think one of the dangers, and when we talked about it, you know, this could be a thank God you're here skit that comes in. It also reminds me of if you've ever changed schools back when you were a kid. The person who usually runs up to you in the playground first and wants to be your best friend is probably not the person that you need to be your best friend. I would take that alertness into the business environment. And it could be the person that runs up first knows everything and you need to absolutely keep them on board. But what I found is that actually it's a little bit better just to take a little bit more time and a little bit due diligence. And the more people that you can talk to, in your team and external to your team, the better you will be when you start to revise that.
Yep.
I think structure is it's so critical, and things can happen in that void. I was just speaking to a CMO recently, and she was just into a new job, and had a conversation with me, and mentioned that the data team was taken out of marketing and given to IT. Would she mind? Now, she hadn't started yet. It was a pretty hard thing to say, yeah, I do mind. Can you wait? What probably would have been the best answer, but it's a difficult one, right? You're new into it. You want to come in, confident and arrogant.
Yeah.
So that's really critical as well. But that can happen. And I think the answer always is, you just wait. Like, does it impact everything if we can evaluate it when I'm in there and make a decision in a month's time or something, so that you can really, or line it up to your timetable, which could be 90 days, and then go, look, does 3 months really going to change everything here?
Exactly. And I agree, because you don't know anything yet. You're still in the discovery phase. You're out. If she's able to testing the product, going on the website, doing returns. Yeah. She's not in the actual company to see what the impact is of the data analytics team.
Yeah, 100%. So you don't know. But yeah, so the idea is, let's just wait. If you get the heads up, wait. And if you don't, you just have to deal with it off the break, as they say when you get in there.
Never good, but at least she was given the opportunity, which is nice.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just walk into the surprise.
Very positive way to think about it, Susan. Very positive way.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add before I give you my last question that I always ask everybody?
No, I think there's two words that I would say, because I think you've got to balance, and it's inherit and innovate. So it's not, you're an evolutionist, not a revolutionist. And then I'll just reiterate, don't lose the opportunity to make a first impression. Don't lose the opportunity of expectation that you're going to be in charge of growth. Don't lose that, because that's going to be a big leverage point for you. And I think you have to be a real commander of that. And if you can do that and influence across organization, then you're going to be a winner.
Love it. I love those final words. Now, my question I ask everybody.
Yeah.
What brand, any brand in the world, best represents you and why?
Can I give you 3?
You may.
All right. I know, because there's not a brand that represents me. This is 3 brands, I think, that are doing good work on 3 aspects.
Okay.
All right. The first, so I think if you look at innovation, Pernod Ricard is brilliant. So they have a great innovation engine. I'm not sure how many brands they have under them at the moment, 110, I think it is, or something along that. But every time there is, and they move at the speed of culture. So once something is happening in alcoholic or non-alcoholic now, as it is, or in the drink space, you can be assured that they've got a brand that is right there and right in the middle of it, and it's usually the market leader. And it's evolved, so their thinking, their alignment, and their creativity around that, I think, is really brilliant. I'm really passionate about, so my second one, I'm really passionate about people that can turn multi-channel into omni-channel by using the data as the lifeblood of an organization. And I'm going to come back to Aussie, and I think it's JB Hi-Fi. I think the gap that they might have had was a loyalty program, but they launched that last year. And they do loyalty well now in terms of data gathering. So you can't buy anything, same with Bunnings, but you can't buy anything without giving your phone number over and then getting the data about what you just bought. So that's at store level. Then when you do it digitally, you're the same customer. And then when you pick up in store or deliver, same customer, and then the service is happening as well. So their ability to return, their ability to manage that whole end-to-end in a circular economy sort of way. I mean, they don't have the returns in terms of the sustainability, but that's coming. So I think they're really fantastic.
I have to say, I do love the customer service that I've had. I've experienced amazing customer
Yeah,
service there.
yeah, they're great, aren't they?
Uh,
You
Without a
wouldn't
doubt, I'm
buy,
so happy.
look, to be honest, you're not going to buy a mobile phone from anybody else. They're the most educated people, and I've been in mobile phones, Susan, for a while, and I go, wow, you're doing a good job. They're really, they're really good. And then I think I'll go back, I'll arc back. So look, what I tried to pick up there is things that people I don't, well, maybe they do pick up on branding, but on what brands they like, but so innovation, distribution,
Yeah.
and then pricing.
Mhm.
So pricing, people that implement tiered pricing really well, I really like, and it's probably because of my history with Telstra when we went from a monopoly into a competitive environment. Um, Everybody had access, used to be called $11.65. Well, we dropped the price of it and then we put three tiers into it. And so
Mm,
everyone took the middle tier, which ended up being about $15. The last tier didn't have, a whole bunch of
yeah.
other stuff in. But people now like, and I won't say we were the first with tier pricing, but you can see it really, really going well for companies like Netflix, who are doing tiered pricing really well.
Mm,
So what they're doing is they're really equating value and price together. So what am I going to put in that bottom tier? I'm going to put advertising. Yeah, put advertising in because it's going to be $6. And if that's all you're going to pay a month for Netflix, you're going to have to watch advertising. Okay, cool. And then they really start to put the value in about multi-screens and everything else.
yeah,
So
high def, all that.
yeah, so that, and you see it in their results. Like there's only so much penetration you can get in the world, like this gap. So now it becomes a pricing strategy. Netflix, great job. And so I'm always a big fan of marketers who attack pricing, distribution, innovation, because they're the marketers. They're the marketers that are around for a long time, and they're the ones that make a real big difference. That's for sure.
Mm. I love that because all of those I've seen you do. So I
Oh,
think I
thank
think
you.
they're all
Oh, thank
perfect brands and perfect. I'd call them the strategies to
Yeah.
get out there and build your own brand. So thank you for sharing that, David. I love that,
No
and I
worries,
think they
Susan.
all hit you perfectly.
Oh, I don't know about that, but thank you very much for saying.
I'm just going to do a quick roundup, which I love to do,
Yeah.
sharing the knowledge that I learned today.
Okay.
So today we met with David. David has got a huge background in all things marketing, and we are talking today about what happens when you are a new CMO joining a company, and there could have been a gap or things could have happened during the time period before you start, and you're just like, oh shit, what have I walked into? It really is that oh shit moment. So for everyone to know you are not alone, we'll start there. There are support groups out there. Even message David Scribner on LinkedIn. I'm sure he'll give you some tips.
Yeah.
But you are not alone. And it's about how you approach it. So eyes wide open. First thing is, you're going for a big role. So of course you should do all your due diligence. So when it starts from even the interview process, make sure between the interview process through to when you actually start the gig, you've actually experienced whatever it is that you're joining, whether it's buying online, joining the loyalty program, doing some returns, even calling up and asking some questions from the customer service team. Start and learn to understand this product or service and the journey a customer goes on, and see what nuggets that you can learn along the way. So you're going in understanding a bit of your customer. Once you're in there, of course, you're going to be coming against people that have been there for a while, CFOs, the existing team, other people, even third parties. So it's about understanding and learning from them. So, of course, start your planning. Very first thing, set all your meetings up. Start from the lowest tier all the way up to your direct reports, cross over to other stakeholders, and where you can, third parties as well. And gather as much insights as you can along the way to help you understand what the real picture is and where the difference can be made, whether the stop, start, continue methodology. But think about that when you're going through all these discussions and take as many notes as you possibly can. Now, as part of the planning cycle, you might already be day one into the yearly planning cycle, but that doesn't mean you have to be stuck to that. This is where you come in with your influence and your growth mindset to really push the boundaries that you are now running this. You're expected to turn around growth. You can't expect to do that on someone else's plan that you know nothing about, that may not even be the right plan. So make sure that you use a balanced and innovative approach to this, and be straight and just say, I'm going to take 90 days, 180 days, whatever it is, to come back to you with the plan, and then delve into what is in the existing plan. Does it need to be reframed? Does the team work? Is the team actually set up for success? What does that look like even? Does it need to start from fresh? What do your direct reports actually think? And what does your customers think as well? As part of this process, also look around and see what is the actual brand within the business of the marketing team. Are they literally just a branding resource, or are they actually part of a strategic approach to growth and all areas work together? That will make a huge difference depending on the influence you need to delve into when you start there and your first impression, because you really need to make sure if you're there for growth, you own it. That's your baby. Get people on side with you, work with them, and show them that you are there to make a difference in the right way. Now, culture has a lot to do this as well. So one of the things you can do is start analyzing the culture and also trying to see where you can foster the culture from being more sales centric to more customer growth. So looking at what is the CX culture there? Are they really customer first, or are they just saying it as just a fluffy piece of wording they put in the annual report? Are they actually doing it? And you'll be able to tell that quite quickly, having been a customer already, and also seeing what they're doing behind the scenes. But every plan is adaptable. So no matter what you're walking into, that's not set in stone. Everything is changeable and movable for the right reasons. So that's where data comes in. So make sure you're utilizing as much data as possible from those interviews, from the KPIs, from talking to people, whatever it is. Build that all together. And then that's how you'll be able to help to build your own successful marketing team. Look at the strengths and weaknesses that you currently have. Even look at what your third parties are bringing to the table. Are there gaps? Is there crossover? Is it just too many cooks? Look at it and approach it strategically about how you're going to achieve the goals that you're setting. Active listening will help you along the process here. But if we go back to the 5 main things that David said that we should look out for, 1, how's the organization maturity looking? Are they seller-centric or are they customer growth? Where are they in there? Give it a scale. Say where you think they are right now and have some of those questions so you can ask the right people during all those interviews you're doing. 2, marketing team. What are they? How do they look? But also, what's best practice? Talk to your other CMO friends out there. Other CMOs are more than happy to share information about what works, what doesn't work, other ideas, other strategies that they've come up with. Tap into that network and find out best practices to help you when you're building your team or evolving your team. Number 3, support organizations. What are they actually doing for you? Are they actually doing a good job? Evaluate them. How's it working? Again, what's any crossovers or gaps with existing team members, or how can it be brought up to the next level? 4, now this one here is extremely important, probably one of the most important ones to me, recasting the marketing value and that they're focused on growth. So if you're stuck in a role that you've just joined and they're saying to you, oh no, you just make fluffy catalogs for me. No. This is where you, as marketing CMO, are all about the influence and growth strategy. You are about building it. So you need to make sure that you recast marketing to have that value, that is what you're bringing to the table and you want to own it. And number 5, which touches on 4, empower the marketing team and marketing area with strategic growth plan that is adaptable, because you want to have that balance and innovative approach to be able to move when you need to with your products and services, with your customers, and with the market in general. How did I go, David? Did I miss anything?
No, Susan, that's a fantastic summary. That was great. Thank you very much.
No, amazing. And thank you so much. I've loved talking to you today, David. Everyone else, don't forget to follow David on LinkedIn to learn more about what he's up to. FV Advisory is a fantastic new service that's just become available. You must check it out. I'll put everything in the show notes as well. And everyone else, please ensure to add more to marketing to your playlist so you don't miss out on fabulous guests in the future. More to marketing.